kind introduction, and thank you to the sponsors, to the organizers, and to all of you who have come. But to people who, like me, live in Washington, this is a very cold day. For you, this is springtime, so I'm getting used to the new world order here. I think that all of us have some concerns about the state of the economy. And just by show of hands, how many of you are feeling really good about the state of the Vermont economy right now? Well, I see a few fingers tingling. Okay, I'm glad. So it's not dead. There is some life, some optimism. How many of you are feeling good about the responsiveness or the content of Vermont's economic development policies to gin up the economy? Okay. How many of you feel like you personally are doing the most that you can do and the best you can do to support a new generation of economic development policy in this state? Okay, so we have some degree of personal engagement and pride and a lot of sense of statewide futility. So we're beginning, I think, on the right foot. I've titled today's talk in honor of Global Entrepreneurship Week, SmallMart Entrepreneurship, or How Vermont Can Prosper While the Global Economy Melts Away. I think an underlying theme in all of this is something that, it's a phrase that we're now seeing circulate around the internet, and that is that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And indeed, when we look at, I think, just 4 of the kinds of crises that we have faced over the last year, we see that inside these crises are incredible opportunities for local business and local economy building. So, example number 1. This is the price of West Texas crude oil. I'm behind a couple of weeks, so that number has gone down still further. But this is a short-term dip. I mean, I think everyone in this room understands that a year from now, the price of oil could easily be back to where it was last summer if the economy begins to get back on track. Higher oil prices, of course, are bad news for those on a limited income, but great news for local economies, because we're going to be using our non-local automobiles less. We're going to be doing more smart growth. We're going to be growing more home-based businesses. And local production that is linked to local distribution is going to be more cost-effective than Walmart production in China that brings goods 15,000 miles to the United States. So huge opportunities are going to be opening up for things that we are importing in. Second example, global climate disruption. Obviously a source of great concern to everyone in this room, but the solution, we all know, is not exclusively but largely about alternative energy production. And the thing is that we know already how to do alternative energy production, both in terms of efficiency and in micropower. This, by the way, was one of the most vapid areas of the presidential debate, with John McCain advocating the building of 300 nuclear power plants 50 nuclear power plants with $300 billion of guaranteed federal money. And Barack Obama not really challenging that number at all. Just to build one of those nuclear power plants would cost, in the end, in just capital costs, about 27 cents a kilowatt hour. That's kind of competitive with photovoltaics right now. And when you start putting in wind power is much more cost effective than that. We have a wind power resource in this country that is twice the size of current electricity demand. We have, if you just put today's inefficient photovoltaics on a 100 mile by 100 mile be enough to displace existing nuclear power. So we've got all kinds of micropower opportunities, and I think we're fortunate to be in a state where a lot of innovation, a lot of implementation has been taking place. A third crisis, the shrinking dollar. The dollar has gained a little ground, so that's why you can actually see a thumb there. Otherwise, we would be in fantastic voyage world of a nanodollar. But the shrinking dollar is good news in some respects because it means, again, we're going to be importing less. Imports are becoming less affordable. And there are huge new opportunities for growing more domestic industry. Finally, there is the financial crisis. The financial crisis is bad news for all of us with pension funds, but it's good news because we've identified certain segments of the financial universe that we know work, and we now have confidence are relatively risk-free. For example, local banks and local credit unions did not do predatory lending. They do not put their loans into secondary markets, by and large. They are not responsible for the derivatives that have taken down the global economy. So while the mainstream financial sector has been collapsing, what remains and what can be grown in the next generation of